If you are starting a print-on-demand business, then the financial prep, the financial side probably isn't the most appealing thing to think about and talk about. But trust me in that getting organized early on is the best thing that you can do to set yourself up for success and hopefully eliminate any headaches that can arise with having a business. In this video, let's break down exactly what it costs to get started with print-on-demand, how the money flows when sales actually start to happen, and how to set up your finances the smart way, even if you are brand new. Print on demand, very simply explained, is when you create designs, list them online on a platform like Etsy, and when somebody buys your product, a third party like Printify is going to print and ship that product for you. You have no physical contact with the products that you are ultimately creating and selling, and you don't pay for the product until the customer orders. This is the huge appeal behind print on demand because it is relatively a low barrier of entry business model, meaning you don't need to have a huge chunk of cash sitting in your bank to get started. But there are some things that you do need to budget for, so let's break it down. If you're starting with the bare bones, the bare minimum that you would need to get things off of the ground, I would recommend allocating a budget of about $85 to $115. A quick breakdown of where these costs come from. First is going to be your Etsy shop setup fee, and it is going to cost $15 just to set up your storefront. Now, this is a one-time cost. You're only going to pay it the one time and then you're good. On Etsy, you do also have listing fees, which this is a fee for every new listing you create, or essentially every new product that you create. This breaks down to 20 cents. And assuming you're looking to get about 100 listings maybe up in your shop, you want to account for about $20. Next, what I encourage you to consider is mock-ups. Mock-ups are essentially a blank of your product that you are going to use to put your design onto that makes it look like the finished product. This is something that as you're diving into print on demand, you are going to learn that your print provider, the individual, the company that is printing, packaging your product for you, does often supply. However, I don't recommend using your print provider's mock-ups. I recommend investing in high quality mock-ups because that presentation of your product is part of what actually gets it to sell. For this, you can purchase really high quality mock-ups directly on Etsy, and I would allocate a budget of about $20 towards mock-ups. Now, the other costs that you do need to consider, these are costs that are actually going to be monthly costs. These are subscriptions that you need in order to start your business. The very first thing that you are going to need is a design software, and with print on demand, most design softwares, it is going to be necessary for you to have a paid plan because what I've found with most design softwares is their free versions don't have the ability to remove backgrounds or for you to export a certain size file, which having a transparent background for your designs and also having high quality, high resolution design files and images, those are two very important components to the success of what you're creating and also how what you're creating is going to print on the product. Two softwares I recommend are Canva and Kittl. What I would recommend is just starting with a free version of each, just to test and play around with each of them to see which one you like best, what feels more user-friendly. They both can do amazing things and both can be a tool that work for you, but I find that most individuals just have a personal preference towards what they lean towards. With either of these, you're going to be looking at spending about $15 to $30 a month. The next thing that I don't recommend waiting on investing in is a research tool. This is something that I highly recommend getting started with from the beginning because it's going to set you up for success. In order to actually have sales and grow a print-on-demand business, you need to have solid research behind what you're creating. If you're just creating things that you think are going to sell, what you think people are going to like, most of the time that doesn't actually end up working out in your favor. But a research tool is something that you can use to actually identify what is in demand. There are two research tools that I recommend, first being eRank, second being Everbee. They range in price. eRank, I personally use just their very basic plan, which is I think $5.99, so about $6 a month. And then Everbee is a little bit more expensive. I pay $30 a month for their growth plan, which is what I would recommend. As a beginner, I don't think that you need to use both. I would just get started with one or the other. If you don't have as big of a budget, then maybe get started with eRank. If you have a larger budget, then Everbee. It's a little bit more expensive, but you're gonna get a little bit more bang for your buck with everything that you can do within the tool. And then lastly, this one's completely optional. It is not necessary by any means, but I did want to include it, and that is Etsy ads. As a beginner, you do not need to start with Etsy ads, but I do talk a lot about Etsy ads on my channel. They have been something that has really contributed to my success, so I did want to add it in here. With Etsy ads though, it's not something that you want to start with a large budget at all towards. Spending more money on ads does not mean that you are going to get more sales in the beginning. Ads are a tool that are used for data. That's a different topic for a different time, but nonetheless, if you want to get started with ads, I would recommend with a very bare budget, like $1 a day. So thinking about spending about $30 a month. How many flows is the next key part of a print-on-demand business. Here's what happens. When a customer places an order, Etsy is going to collect that money. Your order is going to be sent to your print-on-demand provider, who is going to charge you to make the product. Once Etsy clears your payout, the revenue that was collected from that sale, you will then get your profit as a deposit to your bank account. This is a very key part of understanding print on demand and understanding what you need to get started, because this can cause a disconnect between when you pay for the product and when you actually receive the money from Etsy. If you start to grow your shop rather rapidly, you may be fronting a lot more money and not receiving your revenue until a little bit later, which for some, if you don't have a lot of cash on hand, that can of course cause an issue. Now, I want to be very honest with you here. There are a lot of individuals online. I never mean to bash or make anybody sound bad, look bad, or anything like that, but it's very appealing for people to share, here's how you can get started with print on demand without having to pay for your orders first. And realistically, that is not feasible and it is not sustainable for an actual thriving, growing print on demand business. I'm going to be very transparent with you that you do need to prepare and have some financial prep in place to front the money for the orders prior to receiving your revenue. Now, this time in between can vary. You can determine how often you want to receive your deposits from Etsy. You can have them daily, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. However, something that can happen as a brand new seller, and this is something that happened to me, and that is that your account can be put on what is called payment reserve. What this means is that Etsy is going to hold a percentage of your sales until your order has been shipped with tracking info. How this plays into the print on demand timeline. We know that you make a sale on Etsy. From there, you are going to pay for the production of that order. Say it costs $14 to make your product and get that production going. Etsy may only deposit about 30% of the revenue collected for your sale until that order that you've paid for has shipped with the tracking number. Once the order has shipped, Etsy will then release the other 70% of those funds. Depending on the products that you're selling and their production time is going to determine the distance or the length of time between you actually receiving the rest of the revenue for that product, which ultimately is going to pay for that production and then some, giving you your profit. Understanding this process is key to the financial prep that you need to have in place for your print-on-demand business. Most print-on-demand shops start slow. It's not common that you're going to need thousands of dollars to pay for a bunch of products before you receive the revenue from Etsy. Could that happen? Sure. But most of the time that is not the case. And that's actually a good thing because you don't want to be underprepared for some virality, some massive sales. As fun as it sounds to have something go viral, do really well, make thousands of dollars, if you're not financially prepared for that, it's probably going to be more stressful than it's going to be enjoyable. When I first started my first print on demand shop, I was just using my personal account, my personal debit account. And so generally I made sure to always kind of have a buffer about $200 to $300 for production costs. However, I will say that my shop did grow faster than the typical shop does. It was also during the Q4 season, which with e-commerce, with having a print on demand business, that is the busiest time of the year, the holidays, people are shopping. And so there were periods of time where I was fronting anywhere from $2,000 to upwards of $4,000 for the cost of my products, because I was waiting for the remaining costs to be deposited back into my account. So I was taking money out of savings, putting it in my checking, and waiting for that money to then be back deposited into my account to put the profit back into my savings. And it was a little bit of a process. Eventually doing this, I, one, realized that I needed a better system, and two, didn't think that continuing to use my personal accounts was the best thing to do as this was growing as a business. So what I did was got approved for a business credit card. And honestly, I recommend this for anybody who is starting a business in general. Print on demand, different type of business, whatever the case may be, your costs for your business should be separate from your personal accounts. And a business card allows you to do just this. You also then don't have to have cash that you're fronting for every single order, because you'll have a line of credit through the credit card. And to get a business credit card, you actually don't need to have an LLC. You can be a sole proprietor, an individual, and apply for a business credit card. If you do want to dive deeper into when and why you might want to become an LLC, become an official, legally legit business, I do have a video that I will link up above that dives into that. Now, I know that getting a credit card, getting a business credit card, isn't necessarily something that everybody has the ability to do. So if you are not able to get a business credit card and you want just a very point blank period amount of money that you should have set aside, I would say to have about $500 cash in order to get your business off of the ground. You probably won't need that much to get started, but it's better to be over prepared than to be scrambling and have the stress that could result if you don't have anything prepared at all. Now, if you're also wondering where you should keep that $500 per se that you might be saving up and getting ready so that you are able to get your print on demand business off of the ground, and especially if you're not able to have a business credit card or anything like that, I also want to talk about business banking. As I mentioned, you do want to separate your business expenses from your personal expenses. So this also ties into how you're setting up your business banking. When you begin getting orders, getting your deposits from Etsy, and paying those production costs, this is where things can really start to get messy if it is all intermingled with your personal finances. I'm speaking from experience on that one. If I had a magic wand to go back and change one thing about the beginning of my business, it would be that I had a separate business banking and money management system in place so that I wasn't intermingling all of these. Because let me tell you, my personal experience, it got very expensive for me later on when I started growing more rapidly, and I then needed a bookkeeper to go in and kind of sort through all of my transactions, figure everything out, separate everything so that I was then running my business kind of the way that a business should be run, which costs thousands of dollars to have a professional go and do all of that for me. If I would have just set it up the right way from the beginning, then I wouldn't have had that headache to begin with, and I wouldn't have had to have spent thousands of dollars to have it sorted for me. I do not want you to have that same experience as me, which is why I'm so excited to partner up with Relay, which is the sponsor of this portion of the video. Relay is a business banking and money management platform that's actually built for small businesses, perfect for print-on-demand sellers. With Relay, you can open your account online in just a few minutes. You never have to visit a branch. Everything is fully digital. Anything that you need help with, you can get easily through email, chat, or phone if you ever need support. With Relay, you can create up to 20 individual checking accounts to organize all of your cash. I personally like to do this with my business as I've grown multiple different income streams in it now. I like having different accounts that are receiving different funds in my business. And with print on demand, as you're growing, you might find that this is helpful for you as well. You also are able to open up 2 savings accounts. One thing that you want to make sure that you're saving for is things like taxes, as well as allow you to have money to reinvest back into your business so that you can continue to grow. Relay connects easily with Etsy, as well as QuickBooks, PayPal, Stripe, and so much more. Overall, Relay is a very beginner-friendly platform, which is why I recommend them and why I was so excited to partner up with them for this part of the video. Even if you're just starting, just a few orders a month, I can't emphasize enough how having your money organized is not only going to save you a headache, but it's also going to help you scale faster and cleaner along the way. If Relay is something that you're interested in checking out, I will be sure to have a link in the description box below. Overall, print on demand truly is one of the lowest barrier of entry business models. It's perfect for any aspiring entrepreneur. If this video sparked any additional questions, be sure to leave them in the comments down below. I'll be trying to get to as many of your questions as possible. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to boop the subscribe button down below. As always, I hope you're having a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.